Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is another VBX Familia Speaks video where you guys choose the topic of my video. So I had one of my subscribers, or I think they're subscribed, DM me and ask that I do a video on the 1804 documentary on the Haitian Revolution. So I'm basically going to summarize the documentary. So this may end up being a little bit on the longer side because the documentary was 2 hours long. So let that be a testament to how much I love y'all, because I did watch the entire almost 2 hours and summarized it. So I'm going to be condensing, all the information. So the video might be a little bit on the longer side. Now, I feel like I always have to give a little disclaimer before I speak on certain things. So, those of you that have been watching me for a while, y'all know who I am. Although I am very proud to be Dominican and I'm very proud of my heritage, I'm very open with everyone, which some may view as a flaw. I don't know, but I'm open to everyone, regardless of whether you're white, black, whatever your cultural group is. I'm very open with everyone. I respect everyone. And, being Dominican, one of the main things that always kind of comes our way, and which, I still kind of here and there get questioned about is Haitians. How I view Haitians. What do I think about this? I'm either getting questioned about how Dominicans treat Haitians. Like, it always kind of comes up, and I feel like people ask me things just waiting for me to say something offensive, whatever. So I figured, I've been learning about, the histories of other countries and stuff. So why not learn more about Haiti? Because at the end of the day, we're on the same island. And I think it would, if anything, it would benefit me to learn or to know a little bit more about them so that when I do get asked certain questions, I can give an educated response. So that is what I'll be doing in this video. So again, I'm going to begin with the summarization of the documentary, and then I'll give my thoughts at the end. So going back to some of the history of Haiti before the revolution, Haiti had made more money for France than any of its other colonies. Hispaniola, like the whole island, it was kind of like a hot spot that the different Europeans were all kind of fighting over and like scrambling to get a hold of because of its location, its natural resources, and because of its precious metals. Now, in Columbus's journals, he had even stated how he had been told by Africans in Africa that there was land to the west, which is how, I guess is part of how he even decided to go to this side of the world, and that he had even met some Africans that were on their way back from this side of the world to Africa. So there was already some Africans coming to this side of the world beforehand. Now, as we all know, the island was split in two. You had Saint Domingue to the west, Santo Domingo to the east, and gold was what initially like everyone was looking for. But once they depleted all the gold and whatever, sugar became the sweet gold that everyone was after and that everyone was trying to like get their hands on. So among the enslaved Africans that were brought to Saint Domingue, many had been African warriors back in their homelands, and they were usually the first ones to escape. And they would escape the plantations and create these maroon towns, which would eventually become the hubs of the Haitian Revolution. So the documentary next goes to speak on the conditions that the Africans were living under while they were still enslaved pre-revolution. So most of the sugar consumed in Europe came from Hispaniola. Haiti was what gave France its superiority over Britain. And the French accumulated more wealth in Haiti than the British did with the United States. Okay. That's how like rich Haiti made France. So, so back in Europe, sugar was associated with class. And so the Europeans thought they were kind of like bougie or whatever because they had a little bit of sugar with their coffee. Okay. So in Haiti, the life expectancy of slaves in places like, not just in Haiti, but Jamaica also, was like 3 to 7 years. You were basically worked to death, and this contributed to a much worse system of slavery and torture, because of the fact that the white population was so small and because they were so outnumbered by the number of slaves. This created like a sense of paranoia a lot of times among the white people. And so because of that, they would inflict worse punishments onto these slaves, kind of as a way to like stop them from like revolting and all that type of stuff. So, but this did lead actually to a higher number of rebellions in Haiti and Jamaica. And I mean, slavery was so bad that the populations were barely even able to reproduce themselves. So this also led to a constant inflow and more slaves being brought into the island. So something else that they brought up, which is not always discussed, is how these rebellions, they had actually started all the way back in Africa, and that those rebellions in Africa may have prevented at least 1 million Africans from crossing over the Atlantic. So back to Haiti, one tactic that the French used in Haiti to keep control of the population was to rape or have children with the black women, and they would then send these children to France to get educated and then bring them back to Haiti to be the overseers over these slaves. Now, getting into the Haitian Revolution, there were 4 principal players that played a major role throughout the revolution. So the first person is a man named Macandal. Macandal was an enslaved African who had somehow freed himself. It is said that he lost an arm in a sugar mill, and that he was like an herbalist or someone that would be referred to as like a pharmacologist today. So what he did was he taught the slaves how to use the different herbs and stuff in the environment to poison their slave masters. So, and also, not only was he a pharmacologist, but he apparently has some type of prophetic ability, and he foretold what was going to happen. So first, Macandal, he was strategic with the poisoning, because the first thing he did was he poisoned the black collaborators, or what we may call here in the United States like a coon or like an Uncle Tom, you know, the ones that, you know, kiss the white people's ass. So he got to them first before even getting to the white people, okay, because he knew they would be the ones to rat him out and this and that. Now, one day while telling a story, Macandal laid out 3 handkerchiefs. One was yellow, which represented the Tainos, the people who had originally inhabited the island and were basically annihilated. There was a white one to represent the people who killed them, and then a black one to represent them, the people who would avenge the Tainos and get the white people out of Haiti. So, one of the black collaborators eventually ratted him out, but before the French killed him, he made a prophecy or a prediction saying that he would return as a mosquito. Now, at that time, the people were like, what does that even mean? However, later on during the revolution, thousands of French troops would die from malaria, thus fulfilling his prophecy, because, you know, malaria came from the mosquitoes. And because the Africans were already immune to it, you know, that caused a lot of the French people to die from it. Now, the second principal player was a voodoo priest from Jamaica named Dutty Bookman. So Bookman was a big-time revolutionary in Jamaica, but he was sold to the French by the British and taken to Haiti so that the French could deal with him, because the French were known for being, you know, terrible. So Bookman and a woman named Cecilia Fatima, for months, they would organize a bunch of the Africans on the island, and they eventually had this big meetup or congress in a alligator swamp. They knew the French wouldn't go there because there were literally alligators in there. But because they had such a different relationship with the ecology and the environments around them, they were able to do their thing in the swamp with no problem. Now, a certain characteristic of the Africans in Haiti that evolved during this time is that they got to a point where they no longer feared death. People who practice voodoo, they believe in the transmigration of the soul. So many of them, you know, they believe that the soul is eternal. And that is actually a belief that is quite problematic for a slave owner who, you know, wants to keep the people enslaved. Now, the Igbo people of Nigeria, they were one group recorded by the Europeans as constantly committing suicide or jumping off these slave ships because they thought that they would just be reborn in Africa. So they were like, well, bump this crap. I'd rather die than deal with this, and I'll just come back, and be in my homeland. So one reoccurring theme throughout this entire documentary was the importance of spirituality to Black people. And they mentioned how even among like African Americans here in the United States, the church is most powerful. So there's always been a strong connection between Black people and spirituality. Now back to Bookman. He himself did eventually also get executed, but before dying, his main thing had been to basically not only assemble the forces and assemble the Black people together, but to instill into the African people this spirit of revolution and to teach them that the leader is inside them. Now, moving on to the third principal player, Toussaint Louverture. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Sorry, guys. So Toussaint was raised or adopted by the Dahomey woman. He was freed by the age of 30, and he was Christian. He was very educated. He was very Europeanized, and he had basically had a less harsh experience in terms of slavery. He became a member of the French military. He was the first African to become a general, and Toussaint, he really wanted to be accepted by the French. And Napoleon saw that, which he would later on, play on that as well. So Toussaint wrote up a constitution in which he banned slavery, and that was what would eventually lead to his demise. Napoleon was not having it, so he convinced Toussaint to travel to France to, talk things out. He gave them the whole, we're all French spiel, whatever, and Toussaint fell for it. And once he arrived, he was thrown into jail where he would eventually end up dying. His death, however, would not stop the revolution. As he said, the seed had already been planted. So now the French came up with the bright idea that they were simply going to exterminate all of the Africans currently on the island, and they would just go to Africa and replace them all. So in their attempts to do this, the French, they put thousands of Africans on ships. They took sulfur from the island, they burned it inside of the ships, and they let the gases and the fumes basically kill all these people. Now, there's a guy named Rochambeau. This guy takes command as Captain General of the colony, and apparently he was very well known for his hatred of Black people. But he hated everybody because apparently not only did he hate the Blacks, but he hated the mulattoes even more than he hated the Blacks. So one day, Rochambeau announces that he's going to have a ball for all of the wives of the soldiers. So I'm not sure if the soldiers were the mulattoes or the wives were the mulattas. I'm not exactly sure. But basically, he tells all the women that he wants to take them into another room, and he tells them that he has gifts for all of them. So they're all like, okay, well, that's kind of weird, but all right, cool. We get presents. What girl doesn't like presents? So there's all these boxes in this room. And when they open the boxes, they find the heads of their husbands. So basically, this dude was letting them know, I don't care about the Blacks, and I don't care about y'all mulattoes either. And that right there was part of what would make the Blacks and the mulattoes now come together as a unit against the French. So, so in the documentary, they got to talk about how there's this false narrative that the Haitians killed off all of the white people on their side of the island, which is not true. They were specifically only after the French. The Polish and the Germans that were on the island, they were not killed, and they were in fact protected and would later be classified, I believe it was under the Constitution, as Black. But the French didn't stop posing a threat just because they were out of Haiti, because a lot of them ended up going into DR, and they would start agitating the Dominican side as well. Now, the fourth and last principal player is Jean-Jacques de Saline. So the Saline was also raised by a Dahomey woman who taught him how to fight. She was an officer in the female Dahomey army, and she has taught him how to hand combat, how to shoot, and basically everything he knew, she taught him. So contrary to Toussaint, he did not have the love of the French military. But what he did have was a better understanding of the ruthlessness of the French when they were taking out vengeance onto these slaves. So he had been bought by a free black man who gave him his freedom, but even though he was free, he never forgot about the atrocities of slavery. So basically, everything Rochambeau did, he did the same back. If Rochambeau hung 5,000 black slaves, Dessalines would hang 5,000 white people. Now, during this time, the Africans were also learning different fighting styles. The capoeira that we know of in Brazil, that actually comes from a tribe in Angola. So some of those same people were in Haiti, and they were learning this as well. They were also learning how to use lances, swords, and those that got their hands on a rifle also learned how to use that real quick. So their motto was liberty or death. And at this point, they were just willing to die for their freedom. So, during all this, there were again white people that were with the Haitians and fighting on their side. And the Haitians did have the realization that not all white people are the same. And again, they did grant special compensation, especially to the Polish that helped them. So eventually, 7,000 Frenchmen surrendered. They weren't killed though. Dessalines accepted their surrender and he let them go home free. The only thing he told them was to never come back. And he allowed the Italians that were there, the Polish and the Germans, to stay. So Dessalines also, he didn't kill Rochambeau either. He also let him go, and he told them that his task was to let the French know that they were never to set foot on the island again. Now, as they were leaving, these same people who had just been let go and were not killed, obviously they were still salty AF, and they shot a cannon and fired it back onto Port-au-Prince. But as fate would have it, a few days later, they ran into some conflict with a British fleet and ended up in a British prison for like 2 years. So now, moving on to the aftermath of the revolution. So Haiti is finally declared independent and free from all powers of the universe. They also helped liberate a bunch of other South American countries, as well as the slaves in those countries. So this would be in Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Bolivia. Francisco de Miranda from Ecuador had gone to Haiti. The Haitians had given them boats, money, weapons. And when, he asked them, how can I repay you? All the Salinas said was, I am repaid when you free the slaves. So that was basically like the main thing that they asked in return, that wherever, these different people that were asking for help, that they would free all the black people. Simon Bolivar, he was also given money and weapons as they fought for their independence from Spain as well. So, with all of this going on, of course, the European, powers and all these other colonies and stuff, they were starting to get scared. So what they ended up doing was they decided not to recognize Haiti as a country. They were not allowed to have a merchant marine or to trade. Something else that unfortunately would begin to happen within Haiti was sabotage by the mulatto class, who till this day make up the elite class and hold most of the wealth. One of these speakers in the documentary said, there's nothing worse than a white supremacist than a wannabe white supremacist. So back to Dessalines, he is eventually killed. Haiti is split into two, with Henry Christophe, I don't know if he's declared or he declares himself King of the North, and then Alexandre Pétion, President of the South. So Haiti starts making its own money. They're making their own gold and silver coins, and they make it so well that other South American countries ask if they could make their money too. So in the midst of all this, there were white French people that during the revolution, they had fled to Louisiana, and they had taken their slaves with them. And sure enough, that ended up being one of the biggest rebellions within the United States. So Thomas Jefferson, who was president at the time, he basically said, if we recognize Haiti as a free republic, then what are we going to do with all the black people we got here? So the answer was to basically, again, reject them, place an economic boycott on Haiti. But there was still like that lingering fear within the hearts of the white people. And not to mention, there was like an entire maroon population in Florida, which they mentioned something about Andrew Jackson saying something along the lines of he thought when he went there he was going to be fighting Native Americans, but he said something like, I've been fighting a whole bunch of N-words. So now back to Haiti. So Haitian leadership in the 1820s had to decide whether to go into debt by paying France for the losses because France had basically put like a reparations tax on Haiti, or not pay them and run the risk of being invaded or possibly enslaved again. So they decided to go with the first option, which was to pay France 150 million francs, which was later lowered to 95 or 90 million. Later on in Haitian history, they are occupied by the United States, which during their occupation, the U.S. seized control of its banks and wealth, and much of Haiti's wealth was brought into the United States and into banks in New York. And of course, this money was never returned to Haiti. 4,000 to 5,000 Haitians also died during that time period. In 1915, the Citadel was also attacked. And another thing to point out is that in the Saline's original constitution, he had said that no foreign power could own lands in Haiti. But what the United States ended up doing during their occupation was they changed that so that they could buy land, and they ended up taking over the best farm and mining lands in Haiti. Now, fast forward to today, Haiti has been exploited by globalism. The UN has been the cover for the Clintons and the Bushes to extract the resources that they have. It is said that Haiti has about $120 billion worth of oil. The UN also had to apologize for putting cholera in the water. $6 billion was given to Haiti after the big earthquake, and Haiti did not see any of that money. So basically 80% of Haitians today are living on less than $1 a day. Haiti was trying to join the OAU, which is the African Union. And at the last minute, the U.S. decided to step in and demand that Haiti not be a part of that union. In 2010, Wyclef Jean, the musician many of us know of, he tried to run for president, and shortly afterwards there was an assassination attempt on his life, but luckily he only got shot in his hand. He had already set up a foundation that was contributed to and where others could not control it. So of course the powers that be, they weren't having that, and they already had someone that they had picked that they knew they could control to be the president of Haiti. So in the last little part of this documentary, they speak on, the future, and they said how there needs to be a new movement within Haiti. They question, how do you get Haiti into a position of economic freedom and education? And they said the fact that to this day, the most powerful countries in the world still feel the need to continue sabotaging this little country in the Caribbean of African people shows how powerful Haitians actually are. And then one of the ending phrases was, you need to capture the lights of what happened in the past to basically be the light to lead you into the future. So that was my summary of the entire documentary. And now moving on to my personal thoughts. I did find it very interesting. Obviously, a lot of these things I did not know. And as a Dominican, who now has a better understanding of Dominican history, it's just so crazy to me how polar opposite the histories on both sides of the island ended up happening. To think that all of this was happening on the same island, it's just crazy to me. And honestly, knowing like the atrocities that the Africans in Haiti were facing, I can't blame them for what they did. They were literally fighting for their lives and for their survival. I can't blame them. Now, what the Haitians would end up doing in DR when they occupied the entire island, is quite a lot more questionable, and that's a different story for a different day. But looking strictly at the Haitian side, I get it. I get why they did what they needed to do. So, knowing all this, my question now is, what happened? We know the details, specifics of what happened, but how is it that the Haitians were able to fight off all of these European powers 200 plus years ago, but they have been able to do it now. Like, what happened to that relentless warrior-like spirit that, you know, the Haitian people's ancestors had then, that, you know, is not done until we've won attitude? Like, what happened? That is a sort of fire that I feel needs to be rekindled within the Haitian people. And, you know, I know that's a lot easier said than done. I know there are probably a lot of Haitians that have been fighting to get their country back, but I don't know. I guess the only thing I can say to Haitian people is to look back on the bravery of your ancestors. Look at all the things that they were able to achieve being literal slaves. And I don't know, use that as a source of strength, I guess, you know, as a source of motivation to take your country back, you know? So, yeah, I mean, Haiti has the capability to do great things. I mean, don't get me wrong, DR has its sets of problems too. But if DR has been able to get to the level that it is, which, I mean, it's not in the best level, but, you know, they're doing all right. We have the same resources. We share the same land. Like, I feel that Haiti should be able to do the same. So, all right, guys. Wow, 26 minutes. All right, so that was it for this video, guys. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.